Hi, friends! Hi, Cyril! How's it going? How's everyone doing? It's Monday evening for me. I am wearing the shirt. I got the shirt on today. I had some laundry I had to get done this morning, both times. So I was like, I'm gonna wear the shirt. And it's great. It's very soft. And I love it. It's a good shirt. Like I said, the Spirit Halloween store? Superb. But howdy. How's it going? I'm here, and I'm ready to go. And it looks like my internet is dropping a little bit. I don't know what's going on with that. Am I downloading anything? No. Internet. Smiley, hi! Hi, friend! Yeah! Yeah, it's from Spirit! It's great, too, because, like, look. It's a little tie shirt. I have it really loose because I'm sitting down right now, but it ties, and it's precious, and I love it. And the fact that it fits me as well is, like, a big plus. It's a good shirt. It's a good shirt. Spirit Halloween, top tier. But hello, everyone! You were there! It was great!
Your titties look cute.
Thanks! Hi, Allie! It's a heck of a way to start a stream off. How is everyone? How's it going? I'm excited to be here. I'm still fairly low energy, despite all this. That was pretty much all my reserves. It's fine though. But I feel good. Everything's great. I've taken it easy. I cleaned my desk a little bit and then made it a mess again. Let me actually put some of this where it actually belongs. I think, like, honestly, it's mostly a weather thing for me. With the storm that happened yesterday and the fact that it's just been, like, all gloomy today, I am super low energy and also just dreading classes this week. But it's okay. We're just hanging out and we're taking it easy. And you know what? I'm not gonna stress myself about anything that I don't have to. Because fuck that noise. There's enough shit going on in life, in the world, every day, for me to not be stressing about all the stupid shit. So there we go. Told Cyril about it, but Emmy, I just have this nose. I have this nose on my desk from the Spirit store that I bought, and it's just been sitting here all day. And I keep forgetting that it's there, and I look over and there's just schnoz. Freaks me out. Just nose. Good. Allie, I'm here to tell you that you have been working too much, and I think taking a half day and then a whole day off is a good call. I'm proud of you for taking some time off. You gotta. Yeah, loose nose, it's fine. I did do some work on the nose. I'll send you pictures of it later. It's very good. I was worried that the paint was gonna start rubbing off, but it hasn't. But yeah, let me say hello to everyone individually. Dougie was here, but I think he left to go finish off work, but in case he can still hear us, hi Dougie, I love you. But Emmy, Cyril, Smiley, Allie, I think that's everyone. Hi, I love you, friends. I mentioned it in the earlier stream. I am gonna kind of be doing like an overhaul on the channel a little bit, just to make things a little more streamlined. But it'll happen slowly. I'm hoping to have it done by the end of the week. But if not, again, not stressing out about shit. If I don't have it done by the end of the week, oh well. Oh well. Yeah, we're going ooblets only. We're not fruity. But hi, friends. I'm happy you're here. Okay. No, that's a good reason to not not miss work. But after that, go home, get some rest. Everyone's so excited that you're here, Fruity. You was sneaking. Well, we know you're here now. That's all that matters. Yeah. Yeah, it was precious. I mean, honestly, though, I feel that way when any of you show up. I just get, like, genuinely, like, so full of happiness and butterflies, and I'm just like... I'm just so happy when everyone's here. I love hearing from everyone. Anyway, y'all are great. Anyway, I've had something else I was gonna say and then I just completely forgot it. That's fine. We're gonna do more Darkwood tonight, and I'm excited about that. I don't expect us to make a ton of progress because I have no idea what we're supposed to do now. We took care of the big pig. Big pig got. Fucking hell! I forgot to turn captions on. Captions are on now. So bad at remembering that. It's been a. We mooshoed that pork. I had mooshu pork last night for dinner, just FYI. And it took everything in me to not send it to everyone and be like, lol, 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 lol. Mooshu pork. Willis! Hi, friend! How's it going? How are you doing? Emmy! For shame! Nah, it was delicious. I fucking love mooshu pork. Well, it wasn't pork. It was technically mooshu beef. But it works. It's fine. Anywho. That's... Smiley, that's a brilliant idea. I should... Do I have any sticky notes around here? If I don't, I'm gonna have to look into getting some, because that's actually, like, a really great idea. I could also just tape it to the shelf, because I have a shelf right above my monitor setup. I could just tape shit there, too. That's a really good idea, though! Oh my god, Smiley coming through with these, like, fucking big brain streamer tactics. Brilliant. I can imagine, there's so much, there is so much to pay attention to, like, pre-setup, and it's like, even when you've done it for ages, and like, it's the same routine every single time, something's gonna fall through the cracks. Having those little reminders. Computer background would be also very smart, but I like my pretty background. Hold on. I got this really great background from, that's what we were gonna do, but like, hey game, or hey monitor? I got this background, and like, I can't get rid of it. It's Dr. Delight! It's perfect! I know that there are, like, there's apps you can use to, like, put it on, like, your desktop and stuff, but I still feel like I would actually lose that on my desktop. It would just get buried under everything, then I would forget to check it. Having the stuff, like, physically in the space would be super helpful. But look at all these different ideas that everyone can use. I'm here for all of this. I am gonna turn Spotify off and get us the creepy Darkwood sounds. Assuming I can find everything. This is, like, I would do the... I'm sure that you can find, even if, like, the Stickies program doesn't exist anymore, I'm sure you could find, like, a possible replacement. I usually do window capture, but sometimes we gotta do full, like, desktop capture, like the screen. Cause like some of the indie games that we play don't like to get registered as games. It's weird. It's a whole weird thing. But it's fine. Profile 3, that's us. We're on day 12! Oh my god. Right? Sometimes you just gotta? So yeah, like I was saying, we mooshoed some pork the last time. Hi Luna! How's it going, friend? We got rid of the big mutant pork man. Pig man. I just do window captures at this point. Cause like the game capture specific one is super, super funky sometimes. Fresh pizza! Should make Pig Barn a point redeem. We just gotta go into Pig Barn every time? Is that what it would be? We died last time. Window capture bop. Not pog, bop. Surprise. What are we doing? Sorry, my face suddenly itches. I got stuff. I got supplies. We got rid of the pig. My armor is almost broken. I seemingly cannot survive a night anymore. That's a thing that happened, because I think this is the second night in a row that we've just eaten shit and died. So that's a bit of a problem. You want a Lamia update? Look, she's... Hold on a second. Hey, Llama. Hey, Llama. Hey, sweet bee. Hi. Would you like to say hello to everyone? You weren't actually sleeping. You were staring at me. Here we go. It's the bean? And the little paws? Hi! Pog it, flip it, pull it! It is the baby. Usually if she's sleeping, I won't get her. But she was just staring at me. Hi! She's doing good. I say as she puts her fur in my mouth. She did kind of just wake up. She was starting to wake up in her box. Hi. But she was staring at me. It seemed as good a time as any to bring her out so she could say hello. But she's doing very good. She, like I said, she is Noodle. She's so floppy. I was gone pretty much all day yesterday. I was hanging out with Emmy, which was nice. Hi. I was concerned that she wasn't going to handle it very well. Because I don't go anywhere anymore. She handled it just fine, though. Bike is great. Okay, she wants down. Hold on. Hi. No, Bike is fantastic. We love Bike. You want an update on everything? Okay, alright, hang on. Please? Please? No, Lami is doing fantastic. She's been so full of energy the last few days, and it's been really... I mean, she has been for the last few weeks, but, like, last night was precious. After I got home, I, like, you know, did all the stuff that I usually do as soon as I get home. But as soon as I went to go lay down to, like, read a book and, like, get ready for bed, she was on one and, like, wouldn't sit still on the bed, so she, like, hopped off, but then I could hear her running back and forth under my bed. You know the thing that cats do sometimes when they're going a little too fast and they try to change direction, so they just sort of skid and just, like, fly across the ground? She was doing that, but she's still not very balanced. So I'd hear her, like, try to, like, stop and quickly turn, and then she'd just tumble, get back up, and then start doing it again. It was very funny. I mean, I made sure she was fine, obviously, but after I realized that she was okay, she was just doing that for, like, a good 15 minutes of just running under the bed constantly. And attacking nothing, just attacking the carpet itself, and then getting all riled up and then running off, and tumbling off somewhere else. And then she snuggled with me all night. Usually she'll get up like once or twice throughout the night to, you know, tend to whatever cat needs she needs to do. No, she was with me all night last night, and it was precious, and I loved it. And again, it's just so wonderful seeing her so full of energy and being able to do the stuff that she hadn't really been able to do over the last year. She's made so much progress, and it makes me really, really happy. And I love the fact that I've been able to share that with everyone. Just because, like, I've mentioned it before, but it's like, I started streaming, like, shortly after she had her stroke. So it was, like, really just, like, a lot of you have been here, like, since the beginning of that, and that's been really cool to be able to share her progress with everyone and be like, look, she's totally okay. She's good. We got real lucky with that. Yeah, baby. She's perfect. I love her. She's a little monster. We love her. Mama strong. She's a good girl. So yeah, Lamia is doing fantastic. She is sitting here staring at me. I will get you some treats. Hang on a second. But while I'm feeding her, I'll just talk a little louder. She, Hi. Bike is going good. Here, look. I know the lights are off, but it doesn't matter because you can't see anyway. My little blind bat. Eat your trees! Bike is fantastic. I'm not able to ride for, like, super duper long right now. Just because I'm extremely out of shape, and also my lungs hate me because I'm an asthmatic. Eee. But it's still been fun to ride. I didn't get to ride yesterday, and I didn't really get to ride today because everything was still extremely wet. But I've like ride for like 10-15 minutes the other couple of days that I've had it. It's great. No, it takes time, and it's fine. I'm having fun with it though, and it's nice knowing that I have something that I can do outside. It's starting to get chillier, but I love this kind of weather anyway, and I don't mind having to like bundle up in a sweater or two. And where I live, like, there aren't a ton of cars, and some of the areas like pretty dang flat, so I can just kind of go for a while. Right? Any amount of biking is good. We get so much snow, and the temperatures drop to, you know, deathly cold temperatures. Yeah. So I've only got a couple months while I can ride it, but I'm gonna take advantage of that while I can. Yeah, Iowa, in the winter is basically Russia. We legit will get like -10 Fahrenheit temperatures out here, give or take, with wind chill, and easily get 3 or 4 feet of snow at any given time. It's bad out here. It's not great. And then we're very bad at clearing the roads as well, so it's just not fantastic. Smiley shares in the in how bad weather is. It's not great. I don't necessarily mind it too terribly much. I have an issue with other people being out at that time. 'Cause you would think that we had never experienced a winter before. Which, like, I mean, my area's oof! Yeah, I mean, that's the more severe side of things for us as well, Cyril, but, like, yikes. Yikes! No, not great. I mean, definitely not to make it a competition or anything, but we all understand terrible, terrible weather conditions. The wind? Miserable. Miserable. And I know that there's like that running joke of anyone being like, oh, you know, it'd be fine if it weren't for the wind, but like legit, it would be fine if it weren't for the wind. The wind is what makes it the worst. Wind bad. I like a nice cool breeze on a hot summer day. But yeah. The air does not need to go fast. Air trying to race. Air go new. It It is. I would take wind over humidity, though. But both tend to make my lungs shut down, so, you know, it's not great either way. Yeah, we hate wind and humidity here. It's great. Trying to look and see what we got going on. Right, though? Okay, like, I feel like when the humidity gets high enough, non-asthmatics also, like, understand and recognize it, but I don't think a lot of folks get just how awful it is, particularly for those of us with asthma. My lungs just instantly stop. They just stop functioning, and it's not great. It's not fantastic. Not to mention, like, I also just have a really hard time regulating, like, my body can't regulate temperatures at all. So add on the fact that I'm just overheating, and then my lungs are also like, I hate everything. It's not a great time. Don't you fucking throw your shit at me, you garbage rock man. Sir. Smiley, it's nice knowing somebody else deals with these issues, but I'm also sorry that you understand these problems. I want to drop that. I don't want it. I can't put it back in his body, apparently. It's like... Right! Body says no, and I'm just like, yo, can we just get through today, please? At the least. I would like to continue doing this thing that I like. It's true. Gotta get that OLED switch. Oh, walked on some mushrooms. Walking on more mushrooms! But, you could consider not staying outside until you faint. And then go outside, or come inside once you hit that point of not needing to be outside because you'll die. Maybe have a couple less plants. Just a few less, Emmy. Hammock playing. Not how dare! I'm not telling you to get rid of your plants, I'm telling you to just back up just a little bit. Just a handful of less plants, so that you don't have to be outside until you faint. Because you can't take care of your plants if you faint. Consider. Oh, it's the bad scary music again. Is there... So this place was marked as, like, there being a person here? And I still don't see a person here. Which, like... Not complaining about, really, honestly. I support this, this brand change. Hit hammock, Cyril. Perfect, beautiful. Hammock gaming sounds so nice, though. Honestly. Hit hammock. Gotta hit hammock. It's funny because it's like your current name, which is hit save. Because you gotta save your game often, but now it's hit hammock, which, you know, people say hit the hay as in go to bed. So it's like, go to the hammock, Cyril. Play your games in the... I'm done. I'm done. I'm so sorry. Hammock stream! Can we, like, can we make this happen? Can, like, hey, Cyril. Hey, buddy. Hey, friends. Hey, pal. Hey, bud. Hammock stream, maybe? You gotta do it legally. You have to do it now. Oh my god. Yes, please. Sangria in a hammock playing some Animal Crossing. We're just playing a game. I just, Right, no, 100%. I'm also mostly a PC gamer at this point, but I'm sure there's a way. There's a way to make this happen. I hear dog sounds. Dog? Where? There. No! Please go! Right, wireless keyboard and mouse, you just get a real big monitor that you mount to the wall. And even then, your stuff can still sit inside. Can still be safe inside. But just like right next to a door or something. They have those like laptop holders for your laps, where it's a flat surface and stuff. You could do something like that for your mouse and keyboard. Easy peasy. Look at that. We've solved the problem. I need these men to stop chasing me. Honestly. That's with the drink holders and straws. Yes! Please! We gotta. I don't make the rules, but we gotta. Hi, everyone's here and everyone's angry. I'm dead. Well, I did get a little cocky. It's fine. I do have to go get my stuff, though. Again, I appreciate that, like, where I die is marked on the map. Please. This is like the ultimate gaming dream for me right now. I need it to happen. Please, someone fund this dream for all of us. Because if we could also make this happen so it's like all in the same place, so we can all just lounge in some hammocks and play our dang video games in the same place at the same time, then it would really just be absolute perfection. Dorito bot? So fuck off. Oh my god. I forgot how slow this dang shovel is, but that's okay. Uber Eats, I'm in a hammock, come find me. Right? Right? Look, I love this snack thing that you have, where people can send you snacks and treats during stream. And I want that real bad, but also, I live in the middle of nowhere. I can't do it, and it makes me sad. But one day... Yeah! Yeah! I don't remember exactly what it's called, but Cyril's got the deets on that. I'm just gonna keep putting Cyril on the spot this whole stream. Oopsies. But, yeah, there's a... Bobo and crepes. Emmy is my personal snack deliverer. Everyone just send Emmy, Venmo Emmy some money and a list of treats that you would like for me to have, and they'll come send it to me. That's how we'll do this workaround. It was a very good time. I 100% did not expect you to actually bring me ice cream. Oh, I know, Emmy. Oh, sorry, Cyril. I said, I love the snack thing that you have on your channel, but I wish that I lived, like, closer to town for that to be a thing that I could also implement. I don't know where the fuck this camp is, and that's a problem. I'm, like, just on the outskirts of town. Always send crepes to friends. Always send crepes. Ah! Ah! Stop! I'm gonna die again! Fucking hell! Yeah, we died again. Treat stream! That's what it's called! That's what it's called. Hi, Angry! How's it going? I'm doing pretty alright. Yeah, no. Shovel way too slow. 100% shovel way too slow. What did I lose this time? Everything? I have lost everything? Oh, and I just dropped the thing on the floor. I'm doing good, though! Congrats on hitting affiliate! Everyone's hitting that right now! I'm so happy for you! Congrats, buddy! No, Cyril, it's good, it's good, it's good! I was also just joking that I was putting you on the spot for the entire stream. I'm just going to filter any and all questions, regardless of what they're, in reference to you. It's all on you to, answer and figure it out now. Thanks, friend! No, it's not accurate. Just feel like I'm calling you out a lot today. My bad. Look, I love my Cyril wiki, okay? I think I'm just still, like, super... Is this the Mushroom Man that blew up? It is the Mushroom Man. Okay. It's like, why is there a pair of legs out here? Hit wiki Cyril! Yes. I'm gonna die again. This is gonna be unfortunate. Okay, it's fine. Everything's fine. Do you know the Mushroom Man? The Mushroom Man. The Mushroom Man. Do you know the Mushroom Man who lives in the Silent Forest? Angry affiliate! Yes! I'm so proud of all my friends who are making things happen right now. Can we... Look, I would love to send... I just want to send stuff to all my buddies, okay? Please? I know Sarah got affiliate! I was so excited for her. Honestly, I keep missing stupid fucking... I just want to send all my friends all of the things. Be my pen pal. Also, Cyril forgets. I do feel that though. But also, yes. Look, I would love to just send everyone things, please and thank you. If you want me to send you stuff at random intervals when I remember to do it, let me know. The holidays are coming up, and it's a real shitty time for a lot of folks, but also I just want to send my friends stuff. Okay? Sorry. I love you guys. I love all of you. Oh my god. I can't do this. This is too much. I got this spooky ass game going on in the background. I'm stepping on mushrooms. I'm dying. But everything's great.
A body has been discovered.
Is it all of us? Cause we're all dead from how sweet everything is. It's like that sounds about right. I missed. No, there's 2 stick men and some rock boys. That's a problem. Ouchies! Fucking hell! I mean, that's Twitch Mobile. I mean, honestly, that's usually how a lot of our conversations go. This is a problem. I I need some Molotovs. This is the issue. I'm just going back and forth trying to do the exact same thing over and over again. And I think I just need some Molotovs. But I can't make any Molotovs if I don't have any cloth. I don't have a gun. I can make a single gun. I could make a single gun. Oh wait, I have Molotovs. It's not a dog. It's not. I didn't. Oh my god. There's too many things to address here right now. I can't. I have a Molotov. Everything's okay. I'm not ruining the dog camping trip because this is not a dog campsite. I didn't lose the gun, Fruity. There is no gun to lose. And if I had a gun, I would eat the gun. But it wouldn't be lost because I would know exactly where it went. Duh. Okay. Everything addressed. It's almost nighttime. Oh my god. I didn't lose my gun. The world is a campsite for dogs. Okay, but there are no dogs at this particular campsite. It's just human men. It's just men, guys. I'm just killing men. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Alright? Alright. I need these lamps to come with me. They are. A lot of them are. Cyril. Cyril! Yes, 100% the dog park is like a bar for humans but dogs. That's where the dogs all go to get super lit. Those big old party animals. You know those dogs. Fruity, yes! It's great. These are the games that we play here. I'm so sorry. I need this lamp to come with me. Scruffy getting lit of the dog part and sniffing it. Did he ask permission beforehand, though? That's the real question. He can't just go sniffing butts. God damn it. Butthole consent is very important, okay? I just want them all to just scream, "Have you checked your butthole?" That's all. Scruffy the janitor from Futurama? Oh no. Yes, Scruffy the janitor from Futurama is going around the dog park, getting crunk, and sniffing ass. You're welcome. This is the canon now. I meant to pull this as well. Everything is bad, and I'm just making it worse. Not Scruffy. Not Scruffy. Okay, let's do... Please. Door. Door. Okay. I don't think that this is gonna make anything. Oh, Which ghost? The man on the bed? Cause, no, I think I killed him. I think I killed him for good. Have you checked your butthole? Skeet up, butt up, butthole. Doo-doo. Crying ghost. Yeah. No, he hasn't shown back up. I don't want to be here anymore. I would like to leave as soon as possible. I don't know where he is. And I don't know that I want to know. It's true. You gotta check all possibilities. Bro, it's not even midnight! It's only 11 o'clock and he's already busting into my house! Is that the wall? It's just some bad man. It's just some bad man trying to break in. He has broken one of my barricades. Perfect. I love that for me. Very, Luna, very scary. It's so spooky. No! No! No, sir! Fucking hell! It's fine. Everything's fine? Everything's fine. It's all fine. Hello? That's not he's not at this door. Yeah, no, this game's scary. I need to get some fucking medicine in me. Fucking hell. No, for real, the sound design in this game, fucking superb. Not scary, fucking, no. No! We got bad crows! And bad man who would have just left me alone had I not poked my fucking head out into the other room. I'm getting lots of good stuff from them, though. No, don't go through there. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay. Are they loud enough for you to be able to hear all the spooky, scary stuff that I am experiencing? It's just creaking. Okay, this particular room, much more easily defendable. Noted. No! Stop! 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 Don't open my doors! It's fine. We made it till morning. I have survived a night. I think these rooms are the rooms that we're gonna hang out in from here on out. Front rooms, best rooms. Oof, no, okay, seriously though, the people that made Darkwood, fucking top tier sound engineering. The sound design is phenomenal in all the worst possible ways. So scary. Also, you know what I realized I didn't do? Rip it and rip it! I had gotten so used to opening those before stream. But sometimes I forget to just open them at all. You know how it goes. Alright, buddy. What do you got for me? I can buy more stuff. And I can sell him more things. Beautiful. Perfect. Accept my offer. Let's go turn off the generator just as soon as I put the bathtub away. We gotta put the bathtub back. This still wasn't an ideal situation. However, I have eyes on all of the places where they can come in, which is better than not. I could hang out in here, but that also doesn't seem like a great idea. Did they move the couch out here? I could put this in front of the window outside. Oh, bad dragging sounds. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Door. Door. Work with me here, door. It's the easiest way to get it there. That sound change scared the crap out of me. Was not prepared. Please. Game. I just need the sofa to come up top with me, okay? Just up here. Sofas are a pain in the ass. Okay, hearing pigs squealing. That's cool. Love that for me. Okay, alright, okay. And then we can barricade the door kind of like this. Well, it's not a door, it is a window, but I don't think they can come through this way. 3 and 7. Can I get some boards, please? I could also... I could barricade this door as well. No, close. I'm gonna barricade this one. Oh my god, please. UI. And... Thank you for the lurk, Cyril. And again, I could barricade this one. Or... I could not. I don't know that it would be worth it, though, is the thing. I will re-barricade this window, that way they can't necessarily, like, see in. I don't know how smart these guys are. I just want to be safe. I know it's asking for a lot. I'm gonna upgrade my inventory as well. More spaces to hold stuff. That's exciting to me. I need to make more boards. Travis, hi. Which voice mod would you like, friend? Lobster Man. Lobster Man. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna try and enunciate as much as I can with Lobster Man on. Just because Lobster Man is a pain in the ass and very difficult to understand. Lobster Man is bad. Is really all you need to know. But,
He's a man who was also a lobster. Same as me. How slouchy and nasty is that? Yes. I'm so sorry, Ellie. Because can you understand me? And I think this is
Is it too much? Can you understand it with it on? If you can't understand anything that I'm saying with it on, I will have to say no to the Lobster Man. Laughs work really well in Lobster Man. Gross. Gross. Absolutely no? Okay. Travis, you gotta choose a different one then. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was trying to speak more slowly and, like, as clearly as I possibly could to allow the captions to understand what was happening. I mean, I pretty much was. Allie only ever wants party time. I can go through some of these other ones. Try to see if there's like a... Bubble Lad. Bubble Lad. Is that the underwater one?
Is that this one? Is this Bubble Lad? That would be this one then. Alright, your 5 minutes is officially starting right now. Bubble Lad! I'm gonna need to rename, like, all of these, specifically to whatever Travis has named them. Except for party time. We all know what party time is. And if you don't, maybe you should be here more often. Have you considered hanging out more often and finding out what party time is? Yeah, party time is the GLaDOS one. It's the weird, the weird auto-tuned one. But again, maybe you should be here more often. I tease, I know you've been busy. I understand. I'm giving you shit. It's all I have. Sorry. I am gonna turn all these into Molotovs. And I am going to take... Oh, I should have waited to do that. Because I'm looking at this and I don't really have, I don't have that much as far as healing items are concerned. I've been telling you this. I have been saying, I'll take some days off. Have you considered taking a day off? Everybody needs to take some days off. Everybody. I'm including everyone into this conversation now. Everyone here, take some fucking days off. Take care of yourself. Take a day where you don't have to do shit. And if you do, it's shit that you want to do. You dig? Alright. Okay. Oh, I have meat that I have to sell to Wolfman. I need to go to that dang camp and get my shit. I'm going to equip our big stick for the time being, and then I will use the Molotovs as soon as we get to the camp. Yeah, no, you should definitely be taking some days off, Emmy. Hey, Emmy, have you considered taking a day off? Because you need to. Maybe even a few days off. What is this? Spells! I don't want those. Those are useless to me. It's true. Again, everyone needs to take a day off. A day or two. Take some days off. We all demand it, and obviously what we say is the truth. You gotta. I need to remember to fill up the generator before this evening. Okay. Alright. We are here. Are we ready to set some people on fire? Oh, I can't throw it that far! That's extremely unfortunate! Okay, we've done it fine! Everything's fine! I killed them all! Everything's fine! It's all good, and I have healing items again. Perfect. All went according to plan. Wasn't even concerned. There was no problem here. They didn't even stand a chance. I do like how many sticks I'm getting nowadays. It's great. Give me the dog meat. There's so much here. I already have a full inventory. That's a problem. Oof! We just set out for the day. Wait, can I look in here? No. Okay, let's... There's a shrine. I don't know what that is. I hope you have a fun time with your movie and with this, and I appreciate the work, Smiley, and I love you, and you're great, and you're wonderful, and never stop being the fantastic, amazing human being you are. Enjoy your film! No, you. No, both of us? No, both of us. Oh! Saw it too late. Also, we're all done.
Both of us! Both of us! I'm very upset with that because I saw it right as I stepped onto it. But it's okay. My legs can handle the bear traps. I'm a tough, strong... I'll have to listen back to the timer on the with the voice mod on. I'm always curious as to how that's gonna sound. No, don't worry. It's fine. I can't carry those. That's a problem. I do have a gun now? I think it's a one-time use kind of a thing, though. What is this? Yeah, single shot shotgun. Do you have a handgun frame, though? Do be getting that handgun frame, though. Okay, I got a shit ton of stuff to trade with you, man. I'm gonna give one of the sticks over because I don't need it. No, an actual dang gun. When I say gun, I mean a gun. It's very exciting, honestly. Okay, I am going to, fuck. I'm gonna sell the small caliber magazine. Fruity. Okay, let's exit. Can we... I need to... Oh, I didn't accept! Shit, okay. Wow, I'm glad I didn't actually walk away. Ugh. I thought I had accepted. Was that all I sold him? I think so. Okay, accept. And then let's organize our inventory a little bit because it's a bit rough. Health can stay there. That's a thing I plan on selling. This needs to stay here as well. I guess that's as organized as I can get. Okay. Well... that's great. No, fuck off. I've searched that corpse. I need to search that one again. The tank has already been ransacked. I have taken everything from it that can be there. There is... okay. I want to go north again. I've got some time before it gets dark, and I do have our single shot pistol. But there is a Mouthman up there. And I am curious as to what I can do against him. Octo Hi! How's it going, friends? Yeah, Bad Mouthman is super up north. Well, I don't really want to have to deal with him. I feel like it's probably a bit important that I do. Making goopy sounds. Can I? Oh, you are a mouth man. Okay, I should have probably thought about that before I actually went and attacked you, but... Oh! Oh! Dead red chomper. He is very wiggly. He's very fast. Friend is very good runner. Has he considered joining the track team? Okay. Yeah, fast, loud, and wiggly. My three of my least favorite things in an enemy. But manageable. I think we're all very happy that it's dead. Can we? Look, I worked in a daycare. I'm very, very familiar with fast, wiggly, loud things. I'll take them over this beast, though. Okay, I know there's another one up here somewhere. There he is. No! 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 Fuck! Fuck! Ah! Running serpentine does not work against this man! He sees through my moves! Not the baby shark song! Please! Please! I can make an actual pistol, though! I'm gonna do it. I don't have ammunition for it, because I have sold all the ammunition. However, if nothing else, it's worth less than the sum of its parts. That's a bit frustrating. Okay, but gun very good? Oh, I've made some mistakes. I've made some big mistakes. Alright, that's fine. Let's... Do you have a gun now? I'm gonna keep the gun in here. I am going to make more bandages. It's true. I think it was worth selling all of the... I think it was worth selling the gun or the bullets and the like previously. Just because I couldn't do anything with them for ages. Because even if I had all the parts, I didn't have the upgrades to be able to make the parts. So let's go ahead. Oh, empty bottles, you can still make a Molotov, but you use gas. Good to know. I'll still just wait until I have all the alcohol. Honestly. But I will save one alcohol at any given time, especially since I think we're starting to get ready to move to a new area. I have a shit ton of Molotovs now. That's great. I love that for me. I did lose my odd meat though, didn't I? Okay. The goal of the game is to get out of the forest. And that's about as much as you know. We woke up here after having what we know is a key to potentially get out of here. It was stolen from us, and so we're trying to find the key to get to the exit and just generally survive the horrors of the forest. Absolutely, big agree, Fruity. I don't feel bad about having sold all of the ammunition previously, because what good was it gonna do me if I couldn't get the other things that I needed and then just continue to end up dead? So we... There is a fight. Give me your odd meat. Fuck. Dog! Dog! Stop! You are much faster than I am. Please. I'm trying to change weapons. I'm trying to change weapons, dog! Didn't work. It's fine. Fucking dog. Yeah, no, it's real good. It's really good. Very spooky. I have a board on me. I forgot that I have my board. That's fine. Very spooky, very scary. Spooky and scary, even. No skeletons so far. At least none that have attacked us. But, yeah. We do gotta find mushrooms to inject into us. That is true. We gotta have a mad trip. It's not just mushrooms, though. That's so loud. Whoa! Whoa! Dog! I thought you were dead! You dropped a thing. Please, animal. My god. More odd meat. Fantastic. And a shiny stone, which I need to sell ASAP. Where is my body? Where's the other dog that managed to kill me? The most recent body? The most recent of the bodies? There it is. Is there... Was that the dog? I think that was the dog. Okay, it's 4:30. It's good. We got some time. There was a man up here that the other dog killed. Great! I don't have a lockpick for you right now. Jesus! Doggy life! Look, Allie's didn't get me because I was expecting it. Fucking hell! It's so loud! Oof. Okay, we got an hour. Welcome back, Dougie. I love you. Oh, my poor heart. Okay, I see how it is. Oh! Okay. We love you too. I'm just dying a lot and on edge and everything is scary and bad. Okay. There's my backpack. There's everything. Let's go. Let's leave. Let's go. It's time to go home. It's true. At least I'm not a lobster. Can you imagine? If I was a lobster man while all this was going on. I think it would be pretty great, honestly. Real talk. I think it would be very awesome. Whew. Okay. Have I looked up here before? I haven't. Ah! Dog. It's fine. I know I haven't been up there, so I will be back at some point to claim all of the boards. I haven't actually seen The Lobster yet. It is on my list of movies to watch because I like weird shit. And that one definitely looks like some weird shit. But is it sad? Aww. That just makes me want to watch it even more, though. Got weird taste in films. I have seen Swiss Army Man. I watched it with someone on a date at one point. And I don't think either of us were expecting nearly as many farts as there were. And it was definitely kind of showed that the person that I was on the date with was definitely not for me. Because they didn't find the farts nearly as funny as I did. Swiss Army Man is such a good movie! Y'all haven't seen it. If there are people in chat who have not seen Swiss Army Man, immediately go see it. Please, for me. I'm gonna turn that on now. I feel like I need to be concerned about gasoline, because they always make it sound like it's, you'll never find any ever. But I think we've shown that we can. It's good! Okay, Fruity, we gotta watch it sometime. Please. I'm gonna make you watch Swiss Army Man at some point, because it's very good. Like, genuinely delightful. Was, like I said, not totally expecting all of the farts that were there, but it was still great. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. Right? No, same, Luna. 100% same. I mean, like, I knew that Daniel Radcliffe was in it as a dead body. I have a fucking shiny stone on me. I have a shiny stone on me. I mean, absolutely. That's pretty much what Sundays are, though, isn't it, normally? That's what we do on Sundays a lot. Just happens to be horror-themed at that point, but... Okay, I got all the odd meat in. Yeah, I don't think it's British, and if it is, like, a majority of the cast isn't. I could be wrong, though. But it's still just wonderful. Good movie. Good heck of a time. Now I'm just thinking about farts. And that's pretty great. Is there anything else I need to make? Yeah, it's like I knew Daniel Radcliffe was in it, and I knew that he was supposed to be like a dead dude, and that was about it. That's all I knew. And I was like, all right, let's fucking go. Let's do this. And then it was not what I was anticipating, but I loved every minute of it. What a good time it was. I need to repair some of my shit. Oh my god. Thank you for the bubble, doggy. Welcome back, Emmy. We were just talking about Swiss Army Man. That's about it. I died a couple of times, but now we're fine. And it's nighttime again. Welcome. It's nighttime. Everything is bad.
A body has been discovered!
And recovered. Subsequently recovered. I think there might still be... It says there's one more body out there. That seems wrong, but it's fine. It sounds like someone's running? Why is it getting dim? Yeah, it's nighttime. It sounds like someone's, like, running outside. Travis, no. Get off Milan! I don't think it's a mouth, man. I don't hear the growls. It sounds like one of the deer men when they're like running after you. It's What is happening? Never. I've never slept. Not ever. No sleep. Only panic. I don't know what you're talking about. What is that? I'm not checking it out. Not a hellmouth. Well, it's gone now. Are you implying that it's the Eye of Sauron? Octo. The running has stopped. That's not how hellmouths work. Which one of you is going out? Which one of you is going out? That one. Okay. Glad I kind of like walked on over here. Never go to the health. Not the anti-tourism board. My arch nemesis. It's okay, it's morning. That was an extreme, well, I can't say uneventful. Everything that happened outside, which is fine by me. I like the little ghosties as long as they don't get me. I'm assuming they're not coming to get me. I mean, they are, but as long as I'm in the light, they're fine, and I'm fine with that. They can hang out there. It's good. If the ghost cries on my bed, I just do a murder on them. We've learned this. These are facts. One little kiss. This game is just like Mario. Actually, in fact, just like Mario. It's all stuff that I can't turn into anyone else, so I'm gonna give it to him. Yeah, well, he can sit in his own dang bed and cry. I'm not saying he's not allowed to cry. I'm just saying he's not allowed to cry in my bed. That's my cry sanctuary. Okay? Well, that's not my problem then. I didn't steal his bed. I don't see his name on it. Wow, everyone's coming for me right now. Feeling extremely attacked. Fruity. Oh my god, everyone's siding with this stupid man who came into my home and cried on my bed. Alright, well, with that in mind, I'm just gonna show up at every single one of your houses and cry on your bed and see how you react. Probably not very great, huh? I'm trying to leave the forest. I don't know that he lives here. None of you know that he lives here. How? You don't know that he lives here? Excuse me. You can't just assume he lives here? My god. Sometimes ghosts travel. Depends. Oh my god. Everyone's coming for me right now, and I don't appreciate it. Look, I'm out here trying to survive. If he wants to go cry on a bed, there are plenty of other houses that he can go use the bed on. I am currently living here. Wow. All right. Okay. see how it is. My god. I don't... Okay, look. I get that the events that happened the night before can't just stay here. 2 seconds, that's all. And I was here before he showed up, so I have seniority on the place. And it's mine. Yeah, I don't know squatters' rights. My god. Okay, can we... I need to sell this. I need to sell this stone, although I didn't get brutally attacked last night, so maybe... Maybe the stones aren't a catalyst for me dying horrifically. Maybe I just did it really bad the one night that I died horrifically when I had a stone on me. I do have some rep. I'm gonna sell it to the Wolfman because I think he gives me more rep for it. It's true, I do get reputation as a squatter. Our sweet little masked man over here is like, yo, that's pretty dope that you survived. I'm gonna give you some money. All you out here trying to get me murdered. And I don't appreciate it. Alright? I'm trying to live my best life. I'm trying to get out of this dang place. And all of you are coming for me about that. All because I just killed one dude crying on my bed. It's not his bed! Dog. Big dog! Big dog. Please, dog. Please, dog. Dog! Please! No? No, I haven't. And I don't care. If the dog wanted the stick, then the dog could take the stick, but instead the dog likes to do a murder on me pretty regularly. There's my other stuff. I can hear somebody grumbling in there. Go away, I'm not bothering you! Emmy, no! Emmy, no! He's got a stick at home. He can't be greedy. This is my stick. I made it with my own 2 hands. Okay? Okay? It's true. It was just a lot of yeah. I think, okay, to be fair though, when Ferdy and I were playing this, it was mostly to like, and we were making the noises at each other, was to try and help each other differentiate between the different noises. Being like, I heard this sound. Which beast was this that I heard? Please, sir, I'm trying to like... No, he ran away. He saw a dog and he's like, I'm fucking out of here. And I can't blame him, because fucking hell, dog hurts. I am missing every fucking shot. Please, dog. Well, I'm getting lots of big meat, which is great. Odd meat. Yeah, it was good noise science. We had to do the noise science. You know how it is. Yeah, my acid blood does not seem to be doing as much as I would hope it would. I think it's doing a little bit of damage. I think... There's a man there for a second. I heard a blur noise. We'll update as situation progresses. Exactly. No, it was... We had to help each other determine what was going on. Bono! Hi! Hello, Raiders! Fun raid! I no carrots, but I have lots of love for you. I hope that's acceptable. Panda, hi! Ivory, hi! Hello, friends! How's it going? How are we doing? You're doing more Divinity? How'd it go? How was it? Court, hello, welcome! Making sure I'm getting everyone, and I think I have so far. Okay, good. Hello, Raiders! How is it going? How are we doing? How is the stream? Welcome in. I think most of you know who I am. But for those of you who don't, I'm Kayshurrr. I'm an LGBTQ+ streamer who focuses on horror and mystery games. We are playing Darkwood right now. It's scary as fuck. I die a lot. It's great. We're all over the road as far as conversation is concerned right now. It's great. But hello and welcome. How's everyone doing? Okay, he's already told me that before. I just need to, I guess that is a problem. He and Trader do take the stone for the same amount. I thought Wolfman took it for more. Oh my god! we're back on this conversation. Again! He can cry on the bed. He didn't even ask me if he could cry on my bed, okay? Okay, hear me out. He didn't even ask if he could cry on my bed. Setting everyone on fire. It's great. Okay, but I'm there. I was there before he was there that night, so it was technically my bed. Had you considered that it's my bed? Anyway, chat's bullying me because I killed a man who was crying on my bed. I'm glad you had fun. Chomper's dead. You guys have been streaming for a while, I assume. So as per usual, I will say, totally cool if you gotta get up and leave. If you got other plans or things going on, get some food, get some water, do a stretch, take care of yourself. See, we got a stretch redemption right now. Thank you, Travis.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight.
Didn't spook me this time. I saw it. That's 2 hydrates! But yeah, everyone do a stretch and do a hydrate. But like I said, if you gotta get up and go take care of some other stuff, I totally understand. We'll be here for about an hour and a half more. That's 3 hydrates! I'm gonna have to pee so much. You gotta break out the big juice. The big juice is chug time. Icario! Hey, long time no see, friend! Big juice! Yeah, I have this big fuck-off bottle. It's 86? 84 ounces of juicy goodness. No, Dougie, no. I don't wanna get my stream banned. Yeah, it's the big fuck-off juice. It's good stuff. It's how I keep track of making sure that I
Where's
am
the
hydrated.
bee?
There's a bee?
There's a pee? But 3 hydrates. Gotta do them. I know what's up, Dougie. 4 hydrates. Oh my god, y'all are wild. Gotta come up for air at some point. Emmy, no! Emmy, no! Baby! But it's the big juice! Hold on. Travis, Emmy, Bono, Icario. Thank you for all the hydrates. It was secretly small juice the whole time. Oof. Excuse me. No, I'm burpy.
can hear someone over there. What is that? I'm so sorry. I do have captions. We do have captions. I'm in the old woods now and I hate it.
Bees?
Bees? I'm sorry that you didn't get the job, but also I support this spooky cosplay that you're playing. There's so many chompers up here. That's a broken oven. I need to leave here. It's extremely bad here. We gotta go. Right. So we're planning. Sorry, speaking of spooky cosplays. Sunday is going to be Halloween, right? Right, and we are gonna do kind of a mellow subathon, right? I've got some things planned for it. I had a really bad depressive episode the last couple of weeks. Baby voice makes everything delightful and less scary. But, like I said, subathon on Sunday. If people want to share their costumes at any point, preferably the day of, please do. I would like to show off everyone's costumes, be it on stream or just in the Discord or something. I think it would be really, really fun. And yeah. I've got a thing planned. My costume is here and all ready to go. Yes, but also just year round. If people are doing cosplays and have outfits or things that they've made that they want to share, please do, because I love looking at stuff that people make. And it's wonderful. I mean, I get it. It takes time to make the costume. I understand. But just know, I'm here to see it. I'm here for it. Sorry, Automod, what? I mean, I'm here for it. Here for it. I just like seeing everyone, dress up and be extra cute. I can't say be cute, because y'all cute anyway, but extra cute. Yes! I was gonna say, last year, I dressed up last year and was really, really excited about, what I did. Baby voice done. Hold on a second.
No more baby! But yeah, I ended up dressing up as Emma from, Promised Neverland last year, but it was very last minute, and it came out really great, and I really loved it, but it wasn't, I wasn't able to go all out with it like I usually do with outfits. So this year, I planned ahead, I'm all ready to go, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited for everyone to see it. You could just do all of the costumes. Have you considered doing all of the costumes and not just limiting yourself to the one? Right? There's always next year. And that's okay. Yeah, I'm just excited to, have stuff to do. And people to share it with. It's gonna be great. Also, Sorry, I'm thinking about this gun. I'm thinking about this gun that I have. And I don't know how to... Small caliber semi-automatic pistol. Small caliber magazine, right? Oh, does it start out with bullets? That seems wrong. I do understand the wallet saying not all the costumes. I do get that. unfortunately. But no, I can't say just forget that and do it anyway. That's not responsible. Nice. Love Costco. Okay, fuck. I feel like we have to go into the old woods now, because there's not really much else for us to do down here. You know?
The avocado! Thanks!
Thanks! That scared the piss out of me. It is scary there. But I do have a gun. Consider, I have Molotovs and a gun. I have a lot of Molotovs, actually. No, it's okay. You can make me jump. It's gonna happen anyway. JK, dinner's not ready. Can I make a... I bet the sickle's really fast. Doesn't interrupt attacks, but I bet it's real fast. I want this axe, though. Exploding barrel? But I need to upgrade the thing. You did finish baking the pumpkin bread? Good! Good, good, good. And it came out alright? Fuck. I'm gonna do it. Because I'm curious. I guess I'll do that. Organize it that way. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but it works. You have to let us know immediately how it is. I could sell some of these sticks. I have so many sticks. Do I have any... I don't have any alcohol left. That is a bit of a problem. Fuck. Burned houses. Dry Meadows hideout. Little dry but not bad. Good! Just put some, like... I don't know. Put something not dry on it. A little bit of butter. A little bit of honey. I don't know. Yeah, butter. Oh! Oh! You get that double swing with the sickle! Very good. I'm happy about that. I don't want to just, like, waste all this time waiting for night to come. So I guess we'll come visit our buddy. Not that he's here anymore. I miss our friend. I love you, Piotrek. I hope you're okay. Yikes. You know what? All things considered, I'd consider it success that it came out at all. Despite that. Yeah, he's in space. I still miss him. I miss him. Even though he's in space. I can miss him while he's in space. I love him. And I miss him. And I wish him the best. Okay, yeah, there's nothing here for me. I could probably stay here if I wanted. Yeah, let's... If you can avoid getting food poisoning, that would be great. Love pumpkin bread. Fucking love fall. Up. Up, 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 up. Music. Music cut out extremely abruptly, and I did not like that. I need to fill up the generator some more. I didn't think we had gone through that much. Has it been 2 nights? Oh no, I didn't top it off last time. Okay, nope, that explains it. Okay, that's fine. Oh, I'm cutting it a little close. Don't like that. It's fine. It's fine. Birds chill? Put the bathtub in front of the door. We'll close that. Let's push the chair back there. Put the Molotovs back here. And then I think for tomorrow, we will try and explore the old woods a little bit. Excuse me. I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't know that no. It's not that I don't know. I do know. I know 100% I'm not going to be ready for it. It's going to be bad. The chompers were really weak to fire, though. So, I think between the Molotovs and the gun, we should be okay. I think. Probably. It's nighttime, though. And last night was extremely uneventful. So I'm kind of scared how tonight's gonna go. It's true. I mean, I did not doubt Legis when he said that burning everything was a good call. Bono understands fire. I think it was just a matter of, like, we didn't have... While we had, a bit of alcohol before, I didn't really have enough to feel comfortable just, like, dumping all of it into... into Molotovs. I think they're breaking the barricades up top. Did he get bored? Octo says burn! Wait, those are pig heads? Wait. Octos also say boo. Sorry, He's in my house. Why is he only breaking the barricades? I don't think they know I'm in here. He broke my bathtub! I don't like this sound. What is happening right now? What is happening right now? Can you all get out of my house? No! Bad dog! Bad dog! I didn't like it. Okay, but seriously, when did the pig head show up after I killed the pig? Because I thought that was just from me dying. Hold on a second. I need to turn in this odd meat. We're 1,300 away from leveling up. Do you have... You do. You do have small caliber ammo. Oh, for 100 only. That's not bad. Gas tank. I could buy... I have a lot of gas. I'm gonna... Gonna buy the egg and the mushroom. And some gas. I don't necessarily need the gasoline. But it doesn't hurt to have. I'm gonna keep that in my inventory. I'm gonna sell this stick. I'm gonna take this stick with. I'm gonna put that there for right now. Give him the mushroom and the egg. We just need 1,100 more. That's all. Yay! And then we can level up. They did a fucking number out here, though. They didn't just, like, break the door down. They, like... Or they didn't just break the barricade. They broke all of it. I think this is as good a time as any to just leave this place. Fuck. They are not... They're not happy. Can we... In that case... I'm gonna keep that full up just in case I ever have to come back. I'm going to dump all of this in here so I can get some more planks. And then, also, what time is it? Okay, we still got like a whole hour. I am happy with that. Is it a great noise? Keep that there. Close that up. I'm gonna put the planks away. I am gonna repair... Nope, that's the wrong one. I'm gonna repair our board before we leave. I don't have the resources for it. I need nails. Well, guess who has nails? I'm gonna buy them all. They're all mine now. And I'm gonna go ahead and buy that so I can make more lockpicks, because those are also extremely important, and I only have the one. I mean, like, I'm buying all this stuff, but I'm leaving it here. Oh, I do need to take the bike bell with me, though. Okay, well, that's repaired. Bike bell comes with. We're gonna make a lockpick. I guess taking a thing of boards and some nails with us would be good. In case we find the next hideout. But that's all I'm gonna do here, and then we're just gonna, like, book it, right? We're gonna book it for the Old Woods hideout. I'm scared. I'm scared! It's not gonna be great. I could probably get more nails from the wood pile area that I haven't checked out just yet. Thank you for the bubbles, Luna. Ooh, have I unlocked you? Pellet gun ammo, knife, more things to sell. Okay. Wasn't as great a haul as I would have hoped, but that's okay. We're gonna run past Wolfman so that we can sell some stuff. I'll probably sell those pellet gun, or the pellet gun ammo, since I don't have a pellet gun. That man keeps appearing and disappearing, and I'm sure it's a bug, but it keeps freaking me out. Don't like it. Take that, take that. Take that. Accept. Stretch time! We can do that. Big stretch! Big stretch! Oof. Good stretch. Thank you, Ivory. I'm gonna buy this wire as well. I'm also just gonna sit up a little bit. It's a free shrimp check for you. Good! I mean, I hope it was a good pop. I mentioned it before, but my sternum does that a lot when I go to stretch, and it's a little scary when I just hear crackle, crackle, crackle coming from my sternum. Right? Was it a good pop? Was it the kind of pop we want? Wood piles. Give me these. I don't necessarily want to bring the actual logs with me. I think I can remember that there will be logs here. Everything pops all the time. Oops, I walked away before it was done. Slow pop recoveries. Hey, again, as long as it's a good pop. Welcome to the joys of being old. You pop and you take all day to recover from it. Okay, can we... I mean, the hideout is basically just a straight shot from here, right? I'm scared. It's so open! Which, like... you would think would be great. Creepy house? Why is it a cello? Why is the creepy house? Why is its icon this? Hello? This is an outhouse. I can hear somebody wheezing in there. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Actually, I really just don't like any of that. Actually, ready? Enjoy your enchiladas. That's a blow-up man. As in, that man will blow up. Ooh. Unlock. Pills to sell. More ammo! I'm gonna take that instead of the pills. I'm finding a lot of small caliber rounds, and that's also making me extremely uncomfy. Hello? Okay, we're almost there. Place would make a good hideout. There's a big dog there. There's mushrooms inside. I'm gonna fix the well. There are more mushrooms. I don't have any room in my inventory. Right. That's a wall. Oven. Light the oven, please. The oven is lit again. Okay, close. What is... destroyed generator? There's the workbench. I'm gonna put the boards... No, I'm not. I'm gonna consolidate some stuff. Is what I'm gonna do. I'll put the knife in here because I don't really need that. And then I can collect the mushrooms. It is 12, so we still have... Game. Rude. Oh, it's the dog outside. Okay. Okay, there are mushrooms here.
Travis, you're the best.
Cute. And... wardrobe. Note? Who the hell are they assigning to us? Masiak fucked off from the shack. The whole night he was rambling about Merrick. I think it's his younger brother's son. I don't know if it was the boredom or the stress that got to him, but it was fucking unbearable. It was the third night in a row. We tried to silence him, but it's, fucking Masiak. Better not risk it. I slid inside my sleeping bag and zipped it shut. I preferred to suffocate my own stench than listen to that fuckhead go on and on about it. After a while, I realized Masiak is not there anymore. He left around morning. He took all of his equipment, 3 liters of water, a sleeping bag, a radio, gun, gasoline, flamethrower, his beloved spitter, and his lucky stone. He only left the hazard suit. We're debating on whether to report this. No one's crazy about running around the woods looking for a psycho with a flamethrower. Doesn't sound great. Doesn't sound like an ideal situation. Go ahead and put those in there. And then... because I guess I'm staying here tonight. I should... oh, if there wasn't much gas in here. What I'm getting from that note is that there is some mutated madman out there with a flamethrower. If I can get the flamethrower, fucking fantastic. However, I'm not entirely certain that I can. And that's not as great. Just given the history that we've had with this game, and how unkind it likes to be. I would love it if I could use a flamethrower, though, honestly. It doesn't ever feel like it's worth moving this, like, anywhere that I can block an entrance. Because these dudes will just break it, right? But at the same time, if I can... I don't even think this is... I think this is too wide. Yeah, it's not gonna fit. Unless I, like, angle it? I can just wedge this in here, that'd be cool. But I need access to that generator. Well... don't... This place is just extremely unfortunate. I don't like it. I don't like that I'm here. This is gonna be an absolute pain in the ass. Okay, let's... I have one lamp in here. Is there another lamp anywhere? Like, anywhere? Please. I don't think... I think I just have the one lamp. Oh, that's gonna be a big problem. Like, truly a big problem. That's, yeah, no, that's 100% not enough lamp. Wouldn't be bad to move it to one of these inner rooms, though. Oh, I hate it here. I'm not gonna kill the big dog that's outside. 'Cause maybe... Oh, that's not a great place for it, though. So what I'm thinking is I could potentially keep the dog out there as some, extra security. Okay, this isn't gonna be ideal, but... Need more boards. Yeah, enemy of my enemy. And all that jazz. Oh, this fucking sucks! I was hoping that I'd be able to find some alcohol before nighttime, and I don't see that happening. And that is a bit of a problem for me. Don't look at me, dog. Ooh, I know I'm setting out, like, incredibly late. Oh, there's a chomper over there. I just stepped on some mushrooms! I'll have to use the well before nighttime. The first night in a new area is always the worst. Because you never know what kind of enemies you're going to come across. Please, bud. Or what awful events are going to happen. And it's just... exceedingly unfortunate. And I just go back to the other hideout. But the issue is I'm no better protected there than I am here. This is a problem. There's a chomper, man. Please. Please! Okay. They're fast, but as long as you can aim properly, you can take them down very, very quickly with, corpse of an unlucky bastard who's tied to a tree. You can take him out really quickly with Molotov. That's great. I love that for me. Fuck, I'm, like, genuinely, like, antsy about this. I just want to creep over here so I can put that stump in there. I thought I picked it up. Okay, I didn't. That's fine. That's fine. It's fine. I need to move this, like, out of the way so I don't trip over it. Oh! Sorry, I see, like, a lot of lights in the hallway? Maybe we will be alright. We'll be great. We'll be alright. Okay, that's actually not nearly as bad as I was anticipating. Still not great. Do not get me wrong. Still not fantastic. I need to get this outside and pull it up against... Actually, might be better to do that from the inside. It doesn't matter. That's as good as it's gonna get for right now. Fuck. And that's a big old hole in the wall. Cool. Love that for me. I don't want to be here. I have chosen so badly. Do have some odd meat, but it's now officially nighttime, so I can't use it. Okay, well, I've made some bad decisions today. Choices were made, none of them good. It's got good bones! Not happy. I'm not pleased. Fruity, this is bad. What? Is that a dog? It is a dog. Breaking all my doors! It's only 11! Fuck. Are they all woofers, though? That was definitely a doggo. Please. Every single one of my doors is gonna be fucked. Cool, something's opening my doors now. Oh, acid blood coming through! Ah! Are we underground? Subwoofers. Awful. Miserable. Well, at least I died at home. Fuck! That was not great. Let's... Where'd the bike bell go? Let's put the bike bell in here, because I'll need that later. I'll put that here. Yikes, 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 yikes! I should have pulled out the gun instead. I... panicked? Definitely panicked. Put that there. I'm gonna sell the flares, probably. Hey, trader. Visibly struggling, the man drops the sack from his back and bends in half, as if out of breath. Shakes the dust off his clothes, then rolls up the sleeve of his seemingly too small jacket. Sees some new words written on his forearm. Force wants to devour you. You're heading straight into its jaws. Yeah, but I have to go here? Have you considered that I have no options? Buddy? Fuck. I also burn everything by panicking case. Sometimes you gotta. Sometimes you gotta. Ugh. Okay, close. Thank you for the lurk, Ivory. We're well on our way to leveling up again, though. Not that that's gonna do us a ton of good. Like, I do feel better that they, that we've got as much light as we do, and that the lights are, like, on the walls. I am concerned if that means that if, like, during those events where the lights go out, does that mean that if one of the wall lights go out, all of the wall lights go out, so I have to rely on the lamp? Or does it mean just that one wall lamp goes out, you know? I would assume that they all go out. But I don't know. And that's a little unnerving. Don't like not knowing. It's nice to have the generator just, like, here. There's really nothing I can do as far as the barricades are concerned. You know what? No, I'm just gonna turn it off. I don't need it. I can work in the dark. Because I don't have... I just don't have a ton of supplies. All of my shit's south. Okay, how the heck... I think it's very important to have doorways, but I think it's also extremely important to not be able to have everything just crawl through the windows. You know? Call me silly, but... I think having the windows be a little more difficult to get through, probably a good start. Okay. Everything is unfortunate. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't like how anything is going here. Just put this back in place. And... I can't explore the creepy house because it's a metal door? Do you think I could break the metal door? I guess there's only really one way to find out. Okay. Okay, let's go. This will probably be our last day, though. Remove the nails from the metal door? Okay. Easy peasy. Fuck off, dog! Fuck off, dog! Get the fuck out of here, dog! I want you gone, dog! Please go away, dog! Don't bite me, dog! That's my dog song. I can hear somebody stomping around, and I think it's one of the chompers. I'm a little less terrified of the chompers now, but they're still kind of a pain in the ass. It is no goat song, it's true. Who? Okay. Love goat. Love goat song. There's like none. Oh my god. I need gasoline. It's so dark and there's. Okay, let's. That's not doing anything. Can I... It's gonna be really unfortunate. That also does nothing. Okay. Well... Okay, so Creepy House might not be an option right now. Which is exceedingly unfortunate. I just need to find some alcohol. So sorry, Luna. Rip. Unlock. A shell and a battery. This is what these games do to ya. They spook ya. Fuck off. Yeah, get out of here. Go, leave, be gone. Strange man. You know what? It's gonna suck. It's gonna be really not great. But it might be worth it to go... Oh, that's multiples of you. That's unfortunate. Wow, that sucks. Okay, well, you know what, guys? Whoa! Whoa! We shoot fast! I missed. Okay, well... It's fine when other guy has stick as well, because slow. You shithead. You and your fucking rocks. Yeah, we're quick but rubbish. We don't shoot very good. Fuck. Okay. I hate everything right now. Everything's bad here. In case you were wondering, Oldwood's house. Shithead. Shithead. Oh, it's just, yeah, Oldwoods. Not good. Would not recommend anyone come here, ever. You know what? At that point, you live in the other ones. Isn't that it? Oops. Oh no. I vaguely remember that being like a Key and Peele thing. It may not be. Oopsies. Oopsies. I've done it bad. I'm gonna die again. Fuck. Shit. We might need to call it here, because, like, it's not great. It's all good. Can we... Fuck. What all did I lose? Significant amount of stuff. I need to go... We gotta go back to the other hideout. Because we need to get supplies. And I can't do that. Fuck off, dog! Oh my god, I am sick of all of your shit! All of it! Out of here! Okay, 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 alright, okay, alright, alright, okay. Love lovers in a dangerous space-time. Good game. Fuck. This is a great game, though. Okay. Oh, dog's still alive. Not anymore. Dog is gone. Precious. That's a good reason to be scarce. Honestly. I don't like the sounds that are coming from in that building. Oh, go away! Please! Please! He is on fire! He cannot hurt me now! Presumably. Fuck. Okay. I just want to go back home. Just let me go back to my house. Okay. That's all. Okay, okay. Alright, we're almost there. Good. I hate the old woods. Old woods, bad. Nothing good will ever come from them. Might as well burn them down. Just be like, nope, we're done now. Okay. And I don't know what time it is because I lost my watch. Okay. Well... Probably gonna be nighttime soon. I don't think we'll get body recovery done before the end of stream. In-game. Lost my watch in-game. My actual watch, I say panicking as I look around, I think is on my nightstand right now. Because I forgot to take it off before laying down last night. And it likes to make my hand fall asleep if I wear it to bed. But no, so anytime you die in this game, that's wrong, Fruity. That's incorrect. Fuck off, dog. Fuck off, dog! Oh my god. It sucks that the sickle doesn't interrupt attacks, but it does do a shit ton of damage. Which I really dig. I'm a fan of that. So yeah, we probably won't get body recovery done before the end of stream, but we can probably make our way. Oh. Nice! I mean, I'm always here to know if I can pet the dog. Can we pet the dog? Are we gonna level up? No, we're definitely not. We're very close, though. We're very close to leveling up, and that's extremely exciting to me. Getting all this odd meat now, but I'm scared because we are getting all this odd meat now. You know? It's one of those situations where it's like, okay, why are you giving me all the supplies? This is trash. It lives here now. I need to repair this, repair that. Can I upgrade? I can't upgrade anything. Cute. Cute. I bet he looks super precious. Can he stack? They cannot. Okay, so I for sure need wood. We definitely need to bring that with us. I should bring some matches. I should definitely bring that. An excess of weapons will not hurt. Healing stuff. Gasoline 100% has to come. Toolbox, probably. Flashlight, yes. Healing items. That's still so much left behind. It's not a ton of nails, so I'll take that instead. Think I can make it there? Think I can make it to our bad hideout in time? Certainly gonna try! Oh, I should have eaten from the, or drunk from the well. I'm gonna... No! Ah! Please, sir, go away! Oh, it uses a lot less stamina when you eat the pills, too. Or use any health aid, because I used a bandage this time. Nice! Good to know. It's only taken me ages to figure that out, but hey. That's okay. We now know. We need... I can make it. I don't know that I can finish, like, fortifying the base in time, though. Okay. I don't like it. I don't like it. That's the creepy house. It's not just me calling it creepy, that is what it's labeled as. Oh, it's getting dark. It's starting to get orange out. That's a problem. But house should be very close by. There's house. Hi, house. Okay, I'm at full health, so I don't need to use the well. Woof. Okay, let's... That's barricaded. I don't have any nails on me, because they are in my workbench. Gasoline, gasoline. Let's put tape down. I'll take the boards. Matches can go here. I have an excess of pills, so that'll go there. Extra weapons. And useful tools. Extra health. Okay. I didn't grab any fucking nails because I'm an idiot. Oh my god. The panic is setting in. I hate everything. Everything is scary. Take the nails. This needs to go here. Okay, then repair that. Close that. Barricade that. And I guess push this in front of that? Oh, I haven't searched this? What the heck? Okay, but it is officially nighttime, and that's not great for me. Oh, I didn't light the oven? Light the oven. The oven is lit again. We have leveled up. When my stamina gets low, I will deal less damage in combat. I will recover longer after exhausting myself. Once a day, I will be able to scare off nearby enemies. I'll be able to restore my health by eating wood. I like the Scream one. And we'll do the stamina one. Because usually by the time I run away, if I'm running away, I have given up on attacking altogether. I'm not gonna eat wood! I'm gonna scream. I think that would be really great at night. I think that'd be extremely helpful at night. Excuse me? This? Wait a second. This looks like the dude that was sitting on our bed. black and white TV set. Why do you have scissors and a pear in there? Yay, stars are falling from the sky. They twinkle first. Clothes, money, book, book. Towel, towel. It's always know where your towel is. Was that? It's too dangerous to cook. Okay, well. Sorry, processing. Did we attack that man? Yeah, that happens sometimes when you level up. You just get some sort of weird dream. But, you know, that happens when you're tripping sometimes. I'm gonna also barricade. I don't have enough nails. Shit. Okay, that's okay. It's fine. Weapon parts. I have no idea what time it is. This is a problem. Oh, I hate this. Someone's walking around outside. Someone has opened my door. Whoa! No! 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 Baby! A child! What is happening? What the fuck is going on? Why? It's a babby. Like a banshee. Dog, stop! Now is not the time, dog! Oh my god, this fucking animal. It's extremely bad here! I mean, the shrooms are always bad, but I gotta! Dog. Ah! I got pills, thanks. Okay. Well... Who is that? It's another banshee! Baby! Oh, I hated everything about that! I am shocked that I survived! Oh, that wasn't great! That wasn't great! None of that was great! Okay. Okay. Hated that. Would not recommend. You should give me more than 200 experience for that, because let me tell ya! Gotta get 4,000 experience for our next level up. Oh, lordy. My poor brain. Okay, we're gonna buy both of these, and... And I'm gonna buy that as well. Okay, exit. Let's do some basic maintenance around here. That did go better than it had before. Don't appreciate the fact that they pushed that out of the way. But, you know, not much I can do about that, I guess. That was horrific. Ugh. I'm gonna use, because I think I still have 3 full tanks of gas in the workshop. I think I'm going to put the other can of gas that I just purchased into the saw after checking the workbench. Next level of would eat, right? Yeah, sure. 100%. I mean, of the two there, definitely. I like how I got the scream level up and then forgot to use it because I was panicking the entire time. Yeah, we've got plenty of gas in here. Okay, so then... I need to repair this, but I need more nails. Oh! I'll have to buy nails from our boy. Gotta get nails from the trader. I need more boards, though. Just go ahead and dump this whole thing in there. I thought I had wood, but I do not. Can you imagine? I know that this game isn't set up to be able to, like, hear me, but I'm always scared that they're going to hear me, like, freaking out. It's not great. Okay, we're gonna buy a bunch of nails. You're gonna give me all of these, except clothes. Boof! I do have boards, so it's not like I 100% need them, but I would like them. I'm gonna repair this doorway as well. Actually, can I barricade that too? I don't have enough nails. Cool. Love it. Okay, let's put that there. God, this is all bad. Where is my body in relation to me? I think it might be worth getting the body and then calling it quits. Because I'll remember that I need to do body recovery, but I need that watch. Let's go. Let's go get it. Then we'll go back to the safe house, save, and end there. Okay. I do like the scythe. I wish it interrupted attacks, but that's okay. Do I need to go north? Please, body, where are you? Hey, body. Broken tree. I don't know this place well enough. No, that's my place. Fuck. I'm gonna drink from the well. I'm gonna regret that later, but it's okay. There's the broken tree. So I need to go north of here? Hello? There's my shit. Oh my god. Beautiful. You love to see it. Don't have any lockpicks right now. Exceedingly unfortunate. No! Fuck. Fuck! I just want to go home. He almost got me. Fuck. Fuck! I've done it bad! I can't get past him! Ah! My guy! Molotovs, Molotovs, Molotovs. Am I all out? Now there's a man in my house! Sir! I think he left. I think he left my house. Ugh. Everything hurts. Oh, I should have done that after I healed. Oh no. Okay, let's use some bandages and stop listening to my head explode. My head, my heart. Excuse me while I just freak out constantly. Everything is fine. It's all fine. Let's get those in there. Convert those into logs. I have a lot of ammo, which is great. But also... Oof. What am I doing? Or... Cool. Okay. That's how you reload. That needs to get sold. That needs to go inside. That's gonna get sold as well. Let's go put some stuff away. Don't have enough nails still. I'm all out of nails. Everything is bad. Well, this will be interesting to come back to and figure out. Because I'm at a loss right now. I'm gonna put saleable items down here. And then let's go interact with the stove. And we'll finish out the day on Wednesday. Finish saving. Chill out, game. Chill out. Yeah, future Keisha's gonna hate me, but you know what? That's a her problem. We do have a watch now, and that's great. I'm very happy about having a watch. I do love that. Well, I'm gonna turn that down, because boy, oh boy, my background likes to wash my face out. And now I just look really tired. Hey, I didn't tell you to be turned off, okay? Alright? Whatever, who cares? Boy, oh boy. That was eventful. A lot happened. We did do, like, a significant amount, but we died a ton. And that's fine, because we still got a lot done. And that's exciting. I'm ready to be done. I am still very curious as to how much more we have of this game. Yeah, dying is fun. No, it's not that bad, just because it's not super punishing. It sucks having to, like, go back and get my shit, but I don't really lose anything. Except for some time. That's about it. That's okay. Yeah. I'm now tired, but it's okay. Let's go ahead and find somebody to raid. Here are our raid messages, as per usual. Ooh, hiccups. It looks like we've got Mrs. Kiwi doing some Dead by Daylight. Obsidian doing art? Is that correct? Yeah. ATM Zero is doing some Neo 2. Princess Meezy's doing some DBD. Lollyflex is just chatting. And Huchu is doing some Tales of Arise. Any of those fronts sound good? Does anybody have any recommendations? Somebody that they want to hang out with? Sorry, I, like, fucked up my finger the other day. Got an ouchie and I just tore it open on accident. It's fine. It's fine. Because if nobody has any preferences, we should... I know you did House of Ashes. Youch. They're currently doing Tales of Arise, though. Can pick their brain? Let's go pick their brain. Let's go pick their brain. Let's go be like, yo, what'd you think? What'd you think of this dang game? Yeah, let's go say hi to our friend. That sounds good. Finger, can you stop bleeding, please? I'm here for it. I'm very interested to see what other people think about it, because I can see it being, extremely divisive, honestly. But, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Ivory, for hanging out. But thank you, everyone, for being here and hanging out and chilling with us, while we go through this wild fucking game. We appreciate weird added extra semicolon. It's fine. But yeah, thank you for all being here and being wonderful and amazing, like, lovely human beings. It's always really fun hanging out with everyone. Thank you, Luna. I'll be back on Wednesday with more Graveyard Keeper in the morning, because everyone seemed to enjoy that. I had a lot of fun with it. And then Darkwood that evening. Friday, I plan on streaming Graveyard Keeper in the morning, but it is the last Friday of the month, so we'll be doing some stuff in the Discord for Friend Friday. And then probably back to Dark Souls on Saturday, subathon on Sunday. General plan. Tentative plan, but we'll see. Anyway, go send the love over to Hugh Chew. I love you guys. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye!